Your news starts now.
Good evening, and first tonight, preparing for an ice storm. Slick roads have already caused a deadly crash on I-84 in the Columbia River Gorge today, one that closed the interstate for 8 hours. And while we don't want to minimize that loss of life, we want to caution you that conditions are forecast to be much worse in more areas as we approach the end of the week. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm David Molko, and with that winter wallop headed our way, we're in touch with road crews, power companies, and local shelters to see how they are preparing for this pre-Christmas freeze. Details from them shortly, but first let's go to Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. Matt, walk us through the timing here. It sounds like a mess.
Yeah, David, I can't stress enough that this is going to be a potentially dangerous situation for many, many people out there for many reasons. Number one, the ice, but it's going to be really cold, coldest weather we've seen in years in the Portland area. Outside right now, it's a relatively balmy 42 degrees in Portland, but look at some of the other temperatures around the Northwest tonight. You'll get an idea as to what is coming our way. Most of Oregon is still fairly mild, but the number that sticks out is Pendleton at 19. And that's not just because it's cleared off and they've got snow cover, that kind of a thing. Look to the north and look how cold it is here. Seattle's below freezing. Bellingham never made it above 20, and it's 15 below up in Winthrop, Washington, in the Methow Valley. That's super cold air. Spokane is 3. So that's what's headed our way. Pendleton, again, we'll point to that because that's the first place in Oregon really feeling this Arctic chill, was 29 degrees at 5 o'clock. Dropped steadily, and now they're down to 19. So that is a significant change as those northeast winds have kicked in. We have a winter storm watch in the Portland metro area and all of northwest Oregon from Wednesday until Thursday because of this Arctic chill that's on the way. This cold air coming down from Canada. We are on the western extreme of it. The problem is we get the cold air and then we get moisture from the Pacific riding in over the top. That is the freezing rain recipe. And the freezing rain looks significant, more so than the snow. Initially, not bad. This is Friday at 1 a.m. But look, overnight Friday and really into Saturday, we're talking maybe 3/4 of an inch of ice out in the gorge and potentially a 1/2 inch in parts of the Portland area. That's the part that's still uncertain. How much ice we get could be as little as 1/10 of an inch, maybe as much as a 1/2 inch. It'll begin to snow. Then a lot of sleet and freezing rain as we transition during the later part of the day on Thursday and into Friday. The gorge, snow, blizzard conditions. I won't be surprised if I-84 gets closed from this, and the Cascades, dangerous wind chills along with freezing rain even up in the mountain state.
That watch and warning map just lighten up. Thanks, Matt. And that storm headed our way during one of the busiest travel times of the year, with state crews on both sides of the Columbia saying they have their salt and de-icer trucks ready to treat the road. So both ODOT and WashDOT are advising you not to drive if you do not have to while the roads are slick. Though if you do, they caution, know what you're getting into before you leave.
Anybody who's planning holiday travels over the coming holiday weekend needs to plan ahead. And that means know where you're going, know what your travel route looks like, check the trip check cameras to know where your destination looks like, and allow extra travel time.
Speaking of that, now is a good time to put together extra supplies and an emergency kit in case you get stuck or caught in a backup. So here's a list from AAA, including a car charger for your phone, a blanket, first aid kit, bottled water, plenty of snacks. You'll also want to have an ice scraper, a flashlight with extra batteries, and a traction aid like sand, salt, or maybe cat litter in case you get stuck. Keep in mind in some areas you are also required to carry chains, or at the very least have traction tires. Well, from roads to runways, with Friday expected to be one of the busiest travel days of the year at PDX, we checked in with the folks there to see how they are preparing.
We're going to do everything we can to prevent ice from building up. Again, snow, not as difficult as ice, right? You kind of brush that out of the way. The ice is really where it gets challenging. So there's a lot of eyes on the weather forecasts, and we're going to wait and see what happens.
Now, airport crews say they pre-treat paved surfaces with anti-icers. They also have special equipment to help them de-ice surfaces and keep runways open if and when freezing rain starts to fall. Another big thing to think about tonight. I know there's a lot. Power outages. Right now, we've got a piece up on KGW.com about the last ice storm to hit the Portland area. That was Valentine's Day weekend of 2021. It knocked out power to at least 250,000 customers in Oregon, with some areas getting 1.5 inches of ice. Let's bring in Alma McCarty now. Alma, no one is suggesting that this storm is going to match those totals, but we can't say it enough tonight. Whatever ends up falling, now is the time to prepare.
Absolutely, David. Some of the people that I spoke with tonight were certainly planning ahead, and others need to go back to the grocery store to get the rest of their supplies, maybe not understanding how serious this storm is predicted to be. But whatever happens, it is important to be prepared so you don't have to venture out on Thursday or Friday. Rainy conditions will take a turn later this week as the temperature drops. So many chose to stock up now with plans to hibernate until the predicted snow and ice come and go.
There's tons of people. The lines are so long and lots of shelves are becoming empty.
Shirley Hand and Patricia Jacobs say they're ready after a trip to Fred Meyer.
I'm making tamales for the long haul. So we'll have some good food to eat. I'm just going to stand on my balcony on the 5th floor and look out at it and go, boy, I'm glad I'm not out there.
I have some power banks for my phone and, just extra things to make sure everything is charged.
Javier Noriega moved from Southern California last year.
We'll see how I do. I'm just going to go grocery shopping and make sure I don't need to be out when the roads aren't safe. So there's really no reason for me to be traveling in the storm if I don't have to.
Power companies like Portland General Electric and Pacific Power appreciate the personal preparation as their crews plan for ice and wind. The utilities do work all year round to maintain power lines, but they've readied supplies specifically for this storm, both inside the operations centers and out with trucks and equipment.
Usually these kind of storms don't hit every place all at once. So once we know exactly where things are happening and to what extent, we're better able to coordinate those, personnel and equipment and getting to the right place where they're needed to help get things back.
Tom Gaunt with Pacific Power said they expect scattered outages, but nothing as serious as a couple years back in February 2021. Although the holiday season is in full swing, he wants customers to know they've got staff positioned to handle the impacts of the storm. That being said, multiple outages often compound each other, and it could take a while to get the lights back on.
We still have the personnel, but it's not limitless, and neither's the equipment. So you have to do a really good job of triaging that. We have to concentrate on what will bring the most power back to the most customers as quickly and as safely as possible.
Now, in terms of what you should have in an emergency kit, you want to have flashlights, batteries, non-perishable foods, bottled water, and ideally one of those portable power packs so you can keep your phone charged. You'll want to have the number to the power company or an app so that you can report an outage if there's one at your home or in your area, and so you can see when the when the power is estimated, I should say, to come back on. David?
Great advice, and I'm going to add one more thing to that. Down power line, ice or no ice, do not approach it immediately. Call 911. Thank you, Alma. Well, tonight, Multnomah County and the city of Portland have declared a state of emergency to get warming shelters open 24/7 since it's not just ice, but frigid temperatures headed our way. Now, jointly, the county and city say they are opening 4 severe weather shelters starting at 8 tomorrow night. They're going to stay open as long as conditions are severe, and they say no one will be turned away. Now, homeless service providers are already working overtime to get warm clothing, blankets, and tents to those living on the streets. Outreach teams will also be going around the city looking for people in need and will offer to drive them to shelters. Meanwhile, the White House today announcing a nationwide plan to try to reduce homelessness. It has a very specific goal, and much of the model also seems to contradict the Portland mayor's plan. Ashley Corsland took a look tonight on the story.
The goal of the administration is to reduce homelessness by 25% in the next 2 years. To give you some numbers here, right now, as of the last point-in-time count, which counts where people slept on one given night, there were more than 500,000 people who are homeless across the country. In Multnomah County, more than 5,000 people were counted as experiencing homelessness. That's about 30% higher than it was before the pandemic. The actual number of people who are homeless, though, is likely much higher higher than that. Now, the Biden administration put together a group of several different agencies, including hundreds of people who have been homeless themselves, to work on a federal strategic plan to end homelessness. The plan goes over the root causes of homelessness, including racist housing policies, lack of affordable housing, wage inequality, and lack of access to health care. And it encourages policies that address those causes and keep people in their homes, like rent assistance to prevent evictions, as well as shelter options like hotels, small transitional units, and low-income housing rather than large congregate shelters. It also strongly discourages banning camping and the use of homeless camp sweeps. The president is encouraging state and local governments to use the federal strategic plan as a blueprint, really. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler's plan to address homelessness includes a lot of those things the Biden plan discourages. It bans camping and would set up large congregate shelters. But despite that, Wheeler says he is on board with the president's plan, tweeting, "The plan is a positive signal that the Biden administration takes these challenges seriously. I appreciate the expertise and hard work put into this plan. Now it is time for action." We reached out to the mayor's office, and he says the plan to build giant camps is still undoubtedly moving forward until more affordable housing is available.
And for more in-depth looks into the big issues affecting our community, be sure to check out the story that's every weekday at 6, only here on KGW.